This is John Beethan, your host on the Alternative Health Tools podcast, and this is episode 53, titled Ayurvedic-Based Emotional Wellness Coaching with Dave Lesinski. And after listening to this episode, and it's before August 10th, 2016, and you live near San Diego, California, you may want to check out a workshop he's doing. You've got to let him know by August 10th. The workshop is the 16th. The workshop's titled Meditation for Teachers and School Staff Members. And as he says, this course is designed for teachers, educators, aides, and admins who want more peace and calm in interactions with students and coworkers, or who often feel overwhelmed or frustrated with daily responsibilities and are ready to stop allowing work to affect their sleep and personal relationships. Call Dave at 760-815-6591 to find out more information. Now for the show. So welcome back to AlternativeHealthTools.com, the podcast.
Awesome.
Yeah, now who you just heard was Dave Lesinski, associate of Jacqueline Price, who was on the podcast a couple times ago. And I was like, I've seen your website and everything else, but you came highly recommended.
No, I appreciate her for that.
Yeah. And some other people too.
Good.
Yeah, so the theme of Alternative Health Tools is to really talk with people and sort of educate people. And so the way I like to approach it is like I know nothing.
Yeah.
Which is true.
And fun.
Yeah, I like to have fun.
Mm-hmm.
So you can just tell us a little bit. You're not really from the San Diego area, right?
No, I've been out here 5 years ago. I moved out here this July, actually. So in about 10 days, it'll be July 10th. I moved out here about 5 years ago, July 10th. And from Michigan originally. And got involved in Ayurveda and other things there.
I want to talk about Ayurveda.
Absolutely.
Because truthfully, I know nothing about it.
Oh, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's deep.
Yeah. So you came out here for the sunshine?
Well, no, not really. I came out here for the business mainly. I had been teaching school there for about 10 years and enjoying it. Everything was going well. But in my free time over about a 5-year period, I'd gotten really involved in yoga, did some shaman work, Reiki, a whole bunch of things. And then the most beautiful thing happened, and Ayurveda showed up. And once Ayurveda came into my life and I began to read about it and study it and take classes, it was like, okay, maybe I'm not going to be a school teacher forever, And a few years after that, I had taken my coursework and decided to move out here, which was kind of a dream of mine, to move out to California and start the business.
Nice.
Yeah.
So tell me about Ayurveda.
Oh man, it's going to be a 4-hour podcast.
Yeah. Well, good. We've got it's a holiday weekend, that's so right. we have about 72 hours.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Well, when you actually look at the words Ayur and Veda, they roughly translate to either truth of life or knowledge of longevity. And what I like to tell people when I talk to them about Ayurveda is that when truly understood and practiced and applied, it is an amazing knowledge base of longevity that will lead you to what, in my opinion, is the truth of life. And that is that we have so much untapped human potential within us for happiness and bliss. We call it consciousness, divine energy. We can call it what we want. But by clearing out the body and using the knowledge of longevity, we can really begin to really find out firsthand through experience what the truth of life is. And that is we can be happy and blissful all day long and very connected. So that is how I describe Ayurveda.
Is there a practice behind it?
Yeah, well, you can make it a practice. So what's interesting is, for me, I think there's a little bit of confusion out there, even in the Ayurveda world, because I hear Ayurveda being talked about when you're talking about, let's say, a paleo diet, a raw foods diet, this diet, that diet, then you have Ayurvedic diet. And that doesn't quite, it's not quite working. It's not really how it goes, in my opinion. Ayurveda is a whole knowledge base of how the human system, how our human body interacts with and works along with the flow of nature, the greater nature. And any of those diets, any of those ways of living or eating could actually fit into Ayurveda somehow.
So it sounds like it's a really ancient knowledge base.
Yeah, and it's really about interacting with nature and understanding seasons and understanding time of day and understanding the 5 elements and how they...
Cycles and patterns.
Yeah.
Earth cycles and patterns?
The universe cycles and patterns.
Oh, we just got bigger.
We just got bigger. So yeah, once...
So try to give me an example.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say, well, I'll just tell you a story, is that when I read Dr. David Perlmutter's book, Grain Brain, I really loved it. And but what I do is I basically take 5 days or 6, 7 days, but I put myself on an experiment for 5 days. And I simply took gluten and actually any kind of bread and wheat, all that stuff out of my diet. And the third day into it, I woke up one morning with some clarity I hadn't had in a long time.
Beautiful.
I didn't really realize that it had been missing. So how would you...
Yeah.
What would you say?
Well, I have a few things to say about that. The first is I'm a gluten intolerant guy. I found out the hard way about 3 years ago when I lost, close to 20 pounds over the course of 3 months.
Really?
Yeah. Was also having major foggy brain issues. Quite a difficult physical body time in my life. And, kept battling in my mind. It was a complete ego thing, this isn't gluten, it can't be gluten, I'm not going to be gluten, And finally, one day, kind of had enough, called Dr. Paul Douglas, who taught me Ayurveda, is one of my great mentors, great man.
Is he in Michigan?
He's now in Maine.
Because I always like to reference people in the show notes, give them a little credit.
Yeah. Okay. He's in New World Ayurveda in Maine now. Great school. He talked to me and said, let's just start chipping away. Let's start pulling out the stuff that's got gluten. And I, like you, within a few days, I was a whole different person.
Yeah.
So that's the general comment there. In regards to Ayurveda in this situation is all about eating foods in their natural state. And I don't mean raw necessarily. I mean natural food. You go into the grocery store and spend as much time as you can in the fruits and vegetables aisles, and look at in modern society, we have frozen and canned foods. We're not against it, but trying to eat those healthier foods, natural and in their natural state as possible. And I don't know, as you read in the book and as we know in the holistic medicine world, we have a lot of foods out there in this country that are being highly processed and being quite changed from their natural state. In Ayurveda, you read about wheat. It's a wonderful substance. It can bring peace to the body on an energetic level. It's got different nutrients and things. However, you start processing it and messing with it the way it happens a lot in this country, and all of a sudden you're not eating wheat in its natural form. And so all of a sudden you have not so great effects happening to the body.
So let me ask you a question, because I sort of check in with people that know more than me after I come up with an idea.
Let's hope I do.
There are no prizes at the end. But anyway, is that I pretty much think that, the body doesn't, it has a memory for what good, natural, nutritious, food is. So I have this thought, and I believe it to be true, is that the body actually does not recognize processed food or water as nutrition. Doesn't have the memory of it. Relatively new thing.
Yeah.
And it stores it somewhere else, like in fatty cells, where disease loves to wreak havoc. Would you say that's fairly?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought of it that way, but it makes sense. our bodies are meant to break down. And to be honest with you, it's amazing how well our bodies are doing. I'm speaking generally for, let's say, the average American person's diet. It's pretty amazing how well we're functioning considering what the average person these days is putting in their body. And probably in your listening group, we would not be talking about those people. These are people that are interested in health. But you're taking the average person in modern society. So I actually step back and I think, wow, when you look at some of these foods like processed wheat products and other things, I actually get I'm like, wow, our bodies are amazing,
to deal with it.
Right. But yeah, I'd have to think more about that, but it makes sense to me. I mean, the body, you're putting the stuff in the body and the body's like, what are you doing? I actually believe that is part of the underlying problem, or the cause, I should say, for binge eating and things. People are taking in a whole meal of food that's body's like, what can I do with this?
Right. There's not as much nutrition, so it's going to, besides the sugars and everything else, it wants more.
You feel full right away, so I did something good, but 20 minutes later you're hungry again because nothing's there. Yeah.
So what else is it that you do in terms of working with people?
Well, I actually two things. First of all, I am a school teacher, still working with kids with autism for Encinitas schools. Yeah,
I have a personal passion for that.
Yeah, it's we can talk about that too.
Yeah.
So I do that, and it's wonderful. And then I do see people for my Ayurveda business as well. So it's a busy schedule, but you step back and look at the people I get to be with and work with. It's pretty special.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
What about autism?
Yeah, well, gosh, there's a whole nother 72 hours. We got another holiday coming up?
We do.
What a question that is. What is it? What
well,
about
it's, I have a good friend of mine, Eric Weber. He's in San Diego.
Okay.
He's pretty much known as the Southern California Special Olympics global messenger.
Oh, nice.
So he speaks all over the place. And here's what's amazing. So I think he's around 26, 27, and last fall graduated with his law degree. So it's just like amazing,
He's on it.
Yeah.
And
he runs. He's got like 90 gold medals from Special Olympics now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
he's on it. It's
So I want to hear everything that you might have to say about it.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is I've learned a lot working with these kids for a couple of years. And the one thing I'll say, the first thing that comes to mind whenever anyone asks me about these kids in my classroom and autism is they've definitely opened my heart. Yep. So I can't put that data on paper, but they've done a number on me, and I'm just very blessed and thankful. It's one of those things where you can read the book, and it's you have generally speaking, you got communication issues, you got social issues, you got getting stuck in black and whiteness and everything like that. But it's a mystery too. Each kid is very different, and it's like a puzzle as well. And when I work with these kids, you really have to spend time thinking of each one individually because, there's commonalities, but man, sometimes they react to things or they communicate in a way and you're like, man, I want to figure this out. There's a different technique for each kid to help them get through the day. So, very interesting.
So is there a gift in all that?
The gift. Well, the gift, I guess, is what I shared in regards to stepping back and supporting them the best you can without, over controlling and letting them go about their business with help as well. But I'm still trying to. I know there's something deeper there.
Yeah,
I know there's something there, and I definitely do a lot of holistic things in the class. But I've been with these kids for about 2.5 years, and I don't have the answers yet.
Any clues?
The biggest thing I can think of now for me, and I'm looking at it as an outsider, so someone not with autism, and I work with kids with high-functioning autism, first of all. I have not worked with a lot of low-functioning autistic people. It causes you to stop and slow down and look at things from someone else's point of view. And then support someone when needed from their point of view. When I think of those few little points I just made, at least for me personally, those are things that I need great work at, as for my conscious path. So that would be where I'd start, as far as blessings.
Yeah. So here's my experience when I first met Eric, and he and his mother, Sandy. Sandy invited me to see Eric run. So I went down to Point Loma to watch him run, and it was like, I was having a bad day, but not after that. It's just like, are you kidding me? I never, I mean, there was so much love.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, where does that come from? It's just like more love than I'd experienced. I mean, people talk about unconditional love. It's just there.
Yeah, to piggyback on what you're saying, for people that haven't worked or been around people on the spectrum or with ASD disorder, the quote, what you're saying, it's just there, is very, I think, appropriate. It's very right on, because it's not always from just necessarily a hug or kind words. It may not be. It's from being in space with them. Yeah. And so I don't know how to put it other than that. But I'm with you, man. It's done my heart has opened to levels I didn't know were possible in the last couple of years.
That's what I was alluding to when I was talking about the gift. Yeah. So I tell people, I'm telling you right now.
I like it.
If you have an opportunity to attend a Special Olympics, go and just experience it. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, all life is pretty much an experience anyway. Mm-hmm. Choose this one because probably won't be the same.
Yeah. So bringing it back to Ayurveda real quick, for those of you that study Ayurveda or interested, there is a term called ojas.
Ojas.
And ojas would be a longer conversation if we really jumped into what it is. And there's even in the Ayurveda world some argument whether it's an actual physical substance in the body or more energetic. Mm-hmm. Ojas is like mojo. Okay, when you're living life in tune, when you are eating healthy, and then there's a couple other examples I'll give in a moment. The ojas within your body, your mojo is at a high level. Eyes are sparkling. People want to be around you. Your skin is a nice in tone. You have that extra zest, right? I have seen in my own life personally, and with people I've worked with. I mean, you once you start looking, you can see the mojo and the ojas, and you can see when someone's a little down and out. And so going to something like Special Olympics, volunteering your time, being around animals for some people, gifting people, cooking for someone. There's a list of behavioral things that can be done that will raise ojas. And so that's the first Ayurveda thing I sort of thought about when you mentioned, take time and go check out the Special Olympics because it will support your health.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me like the Inner Temple, Tuesday nights in Encinitas, it's a very similar thing.
Absolutely.
Because I know I'm changed since going to that. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like amazing.
And regarding the Inner Temple, I would agree. Sitting back and watching, and while I participate and just seeing people getting there and like-minded and push, enjoying what's happening there, but also pushes limits a little bit. Whether it's a movement activity or looking in someone's eyes or other things, you walk out of there and you feel good.
Yeah, feel really good. So here's what I like to ask people. Let's talk about a defining moment in your life.
Wow, yeah.
One that just like everything changed.
Okay. Easy answer. About my third year of teaching, things were going great. I was a special ed teacher in Michigan. At the time, I taught kids with emotional issues and behavior disorders, which was more of what I went to college for. Life was good. Things are good. And the second half of the year came along and we got a couple really tough kids. And what made these kids tough was not just their behavior and the work we had to do supporting them getting their life back together, but it was the families. Real challenging, which, happens. And it was around April. So you're getting towards the end of the year. And I had been really, I'm going to use the word battling with these parents about medications and other things, and was really having a rough time. They were not fun people to work with. And for anyone in the teaching field, special ed or other, and other therapy fields, it's hard to watch someone fall apart in front of you when there's things that could be done at home. Anyway. I got lucky. I was sitting at home one night and going through my mail, and there was a pamphlet for the local yoga studio that just opened. Never had done yoga. Had heard of it, was open to it, but had never done a yoga position in my life. And that weekend, walked into my first yoga class. Slow flow kind of class. Went through the class, did the best I could. Sort of fell all over the place, and then I laid down in shavasana. And then when I was laying in Shavasana the first time, which for those of you that don't know is that 5 to 10 minutes after where you just lay there and relax, I felt like I was floating. And when I look back at that very defining moment for me, very defining moment, now that I like the way you phrased that, I think what was happening at that moment was for the first time in my life, I would have been around, late 20s. So in the first 28 years of my life or so, I was walking away from myself completely. First 28 years, not realizing, that I'm going outside of myself for my happiness and outside of myself for everything. And just stopped for that 5 minutes and was like, whoa. I don't even think I turned around and looked at myself yet. I hadn't really looked at my different, I didn't know what a kosha was or what a energy body was, but I think I just stopped going elsewhere. And it was enough to make me feel like I was floating. And then just to finish the story, I was yoga teaching 6 months later, diving into chakras and Reiki and everything else. And,
Because you wanted more.
Yeah.
You wanted to experience more and share it with others.
And it was in me.
Yeah.
I just didn't know because I didn't know where to look. I was always going outside myself,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And the rest is history, So, yeah.
What kind of personal passions do you have outside of all of this?
Yeah. Well, the biggest, and I think it's one of the most spiritual things I've done. I'm somebody like you probably. I've done a lot of spiritual things in my young life. You name it, I've probably tried it. And the most recent is improv. So I've been in improv for a couple of years. Yeah, down in at Finest City Improv in North Park, San Diego.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Let me know when you're there next.
Well, for those of you, I don't know when this recording is coming out, but I'll invite you to the best show that I am in that plays on a regular basis is the first Saturday of every month at 8 o'clock.
First Saturday of every month.
It's called The Single Lady Show.
Oh, don't give it away.
Well, it's the same thing. It's the same theme every week. We interview a woman who is single in her 30s or 40s or older, and we actually talk to her about her life and base improv on her dating life. So it's
really?
A trip.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Could we have that on the podcast sometime?
Oh, yeah. Well, trust me. I know the owner, Amy Lesinski, really well, and she'd love to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Very spiritual, and I mean it. Probably one of the most spiritual things I've done to get out of my comfort zone and to, play a little bit.
Well, most people will say that, the most fun they ever had is just like when they just let it happen.
Yeah.
Let it all hang out.
Yeah. Hard for me to do at times.
Yeah.
Yeah. So improv.
That's good.
Yeah. Let's see what else.
Well, we were talking earlier on the way up to the studio, and we were talking about trucks.
Yes.
Yeah, we both like trucks.
Yeah. We're truck guys.
Yeah.
I'd say sorry environment, but the trucks are getting pretty well made now.
Yeah, it won't be long till Tesla has one.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, there's been a few people that have taken wrecked Teslas and turned them into trucks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're on it. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's happened.
That's really cool. Yeah.
In an RV, too.
Yeah.
Small RV.
Yeah. Wow, that's really neat. Yeah, that would be a dream come true, have a little Tesla truck.
Yeah, really. And then you're going to have to rig it with audio and speakers to make it sound growling like a real truck.
I'm going to go home after this and put that on my vision board.
Yeah, good. So, vision boards, powerful stuff too, huh?
Yeah, I've done a few. I think the power of a vision board is taking some time, either a few days beforehand or getting into somewhat of a meditative state and really trying to produce what feels like it's coming up and what feels right. One of the things I think that's happened with the whole manifesting thing, which I'm, The Secret and all that stuff, I thought was great, years ago, the movie and everything. But I think it can be forced. And people can get involved in trying to force and push something to happen. And I think it's actually more of just tapping in and so we can allow it. So I do think a vision board and having those sort of visual goals is powerful, as long as we're not forcing or pushing.
Yeah, keep it in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I suspected there were some other things you had some passions going on with.
Yeah, well, at this time of the year, especially just being in the ocean, surfing and swimming. Oh, man, love it. And, being a teacher and having my own business, I can sort of make my hours. So I think that between June and September, I'm at the beach almost... Well, we'll say 5 days a week.
In the mornings?
No, actually, typically in the afternoons, I'll go and finish the day there, either surfing or swimming.
Nice.
And I was there yesterday at sea. It was the last day of June, and it was warm.
Yeah.
If you get there, the water's real warm already. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what else, Dave?
Oh, man, there's so much else.
What do you want people to know? that you don't think people know or you think they should hear?
Yeah, it's a great question. I love it. We can make great change in our lives, and maybe you could say more importantly, the lives of the people around you, if we make a choice at some type of pace to do some self-work. And what self-work might look like can be very different.
Why would somebody want to do that?
Well, we talked earlier a little bit about, when we talked about Ayurveda and things, we have this great wealth of peace, love, bliss, intelligence, greater than what we think we have now, harmony sitting within us, and it's quite possible to experience those states on a much more regular basis than myself and the average person walking around is.
Yeah.
And if we can begin to, again, at our own pace, using whatever methods we're guided to use, and we can talk about those, I guess, in a moment. I would tell you Ayurvedic methods, but it's just one way. We can begin to clear out some of the stress, some of the gunk that's sitting within our body at different levels and layers that's getting in the way from us truly tapping into that.
Yeah.
And the one other thing I want to say about that before even, expounding or doing whatever else we're going to talk about is a lot of people that I run into are not realizing yet or remembering is that this isn't about just us and what we're going to do and the happiness that we can create in our own life. This is about being a better mother, father, teacher, podcast host, whatever it is. This is about impacting the world. It's probably the most unselfish thing you could do is take time to yourself each day to do something, if, whatever fits in your schedule. So that would be my response to your question.
Okay, Ayurvedically speaking, what technique could you do?
Well,
something simple.
Yeah. Well, I would if you're going to pick one thing, I would begin looking into some sort of what I call daily spiritual retreat. So we talk about, if we ever have the time, if we're lucky, going on a weekend retreat or something, getting away and whatever type of retreat that is great. But if we can find start small, 5 to 10 minutes, and dedicate that to what I call a daily retreat, where if you're praying is your thing, I would highly suggest learning with somebody some type of meditation, yoga, breathing techniques, just stopping and putting on some soft music with maybe some essential oils. Whatever it is for you, slow down. And what that's doing, hopefully, is de-stressing the body a bit. If I was going to pick one thing, I would say some type of meditation or thing each day.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people talk about, if you just sit quietly for even 5 minutes. A lot of people, they say, meditate for 20 minutes. A lot of people don't have 20 minutes, or they don't think they do.
Right. And it can be very stressful on a busy mother and father. And most of us, even the busiest of us, we can usually find 20, but you got to ease into it.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's changed my life. I know a lot of people who it's really had great impact on. So that would be one. There's always other things to be doing, but that would be the biggest. Stop and slow down.
Yeah, stop and slow down. Yeah. Years and years ago in Santa Fe, when I was first podcasting, I did a podcast with Jeffrey Milburn from the Omni Art Salon. He's still doing the podcast. And Jeffrey somehow just ends up meeting amazing people. And there was a film festival in Santa Fe at that time. And there was a director, his name was Robert Kleinert, and he did a movie called Spirit Riders. Like Viggo Mortensen was in it, and several other pretty well-known people. And it was a ride still done yearly there in North Dakota and that area. And it's a spiritual practice, really. But Jeffrey would always ask the question, sort of the one I do, is what's the one thing that people need to know? And he said, slow down.
Yeah. The opposite of what we're all doing right now in this country.
Yeah. So most of my life was in Santa Fe, pretty slow. Came down to San Diego. Things are so fast.
Yeah.
So I've been making a daily habit, if I'm out and about, to just make eye contact with people. Just slow myself down and make eye contact. That's all I want to do. To let people know that you can be here and enjoy this moment instead of being somewhere else in the future or thinking about the past.
Mm-hmm. And it's amazing what happens when you slow down in regards to tapping into how you're actually feeling.
Yeah.
A friend of mine who's a really good clinical nutritionist tells a story about a guy that, a client of hers sent him in. It was her husband. So she needed, husband was actually a doctor, by the way, and he wasn't healthy. He was like eating McDonald's every day and other things. So wife said, you need to go talk to this, to my friend. And the guy was very defensive, and he's like, yeah, I'm here because my wife is here. And, and it was a very tough consult. And as he was walking out, she said, just do one thing. Stop when you're eating your McDonald's. Just stop and eat. Don't do it while you're driving. And he walked out, and she's like, I'm never seeing him again. That was toughy, but hopefully he gets better. He showed up 2 weeks later to an appointment with her and walked in and said, I hate Big Macs. He's like, once I stopped, I realized I hate this food. And it was just because he'd stopped, and taken a moment to actually tap in. But what an example. I mean, it sounds crazy, but
no.
There's been times where I've been in the same situation where if I just stop, it's like, whoa, why am I doing this again? Why am I behaving in this way?
Yeah, instead of being automatic.
Right.
Yeah, fun. I mean, I have this feeling you've had some experiences that have informed you and changed the direction of your life. And
well, I got real lucky. We can talk more about meditation. I mean,
sure.
That's a big one for me. I got to a point now. This is back. This is right at the beginning of my. Gosh, time flies, doesn't it? Holy smokes! This would have been right around the same time I found yoga, and by the way, when I tell that story earlier, that was truly a defining moment that triggered a lot of spiritual work and quite a different way of living. Around the same time, I was having what I call, and doctor never told me this, but I was having about a panic attack a month. And the way I would describe that is, I'd be just walking down the street. Life is okay. I used to actually be able to walk to work. And it was like, the old cartoons when the cloud comes over and starts raining on the cartoon character and then it leaves. For about 30 seconds to a minute, that would happen energetically. I would almost be dropped to my knees crying. So anxious, so upset, so worried, almost depressed. And then the cloud would move away, and it might not be that intense, but for about a day or two, it would linger at some level. And after about a year of that, I walked into my doctor. I walked into the doctor's office, and I said, Doc, I'm chewing on my fingers. My nails are down to the bone here. I'm having these issues. I'm not happy. I'll take any medicine you'll give me. I don't care if it gives me sexual problems. I don't care if it causes me to go to bed at 9 o'clock. I do not want to feel this way anymore. And so I played the whole medicine game for about, luckily, 8 months, jumping from things like Paxil and other things. But the beauty is that was right around the same time I found yoga, and soon after I found yoga, I began meditating daily, which I learned through my yoga training, and was only on the medications for about 8 months, and immediately was able to start weaning off, not even a year of my life, luckily, on the meds, and completely life-changing, and I've been meditating in different styles ever since. So that is another huge moment, was not just the yoga, but stopping and slowing down, and taking that moment each day, 5 to 20 minutes, whatever you can do, make it work.
What do you think a panic attack is about, actually?
Well, I think in Ayurvedically speaking, so in Ayurveda, we look at, we really, most people when they think of Ayurveda have heard of the doshas, Vata dosha, Pitta dosha, Kapha dosha. And if we want to break those down even further, they're really built upon the 5 elements. So you hear of the Vata dosha. That's going to be a combination anytime in nature, in the physical body or in the world, when the 2 elements of space and air play together. You have movements. Space and air is light. It's quick. It's movable. It's cold. Okay, it's the wind in the trees. It's the movement through the body, the nervous system. Okay. Pitta dosha is fire with a little bit of moisture, so it's your digestive ability. It's actual, fire. And then you have Kapha dosha, which is the 2 heaviest elements. It's water and earth. So very solid, very forming, some of the fluids of the body and the thickness and stability. Well, we live in a very Vata deranged society, meaning everyone's moving real fast like the wind. Nervous systems are being constantly taxed. We're not slowing down enough. And so our nervous systems are just, and another, actually a big one, is a lot of people are not sleeping well.
Oh,
because
I get
of
that a lot.
Big time.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people that don't sleep. Wow.
Oh, it's a big one. And so, if you're not sleeping well and you're never slowing down and letting the nervous system kind of release some of the stress from the last couple of days, it's going to be very easy for yourself to get Vata overloaded or too much space and air, too much, cycling and movement in the system. Body's not having it mentally and emotionally. And so normal everyday things all of a sudden to a fatigued, stressed out body are going to be enough to drop someone to their knees. Where if we were sleeping okay and meditating or doing whatever we can do to let out some of the stress from yesterday, so our cup is empty when we wake up the next day, whatever that problem was, no big deal.
Yeah.
But we're overloaded.
Right.
And
there's no time to release. There's no energetics around releasing. Energetics could be just sitting and meditating. Yeah.
And we're not taught. We weren't taught as kids.
Right.
Just now you're getting some great schools, and not just private, but there are public school teachers who are slowly working in my classroom as an example. Essential oil and aromatherapy, meditation, yoga. I mean, Encinitas School is amazing for the...
And this is a public school.
Yeah. Oh, Encinitas School has been through battles just to allow, yoga in schools and stuff. It's still an ongoing thing.
Yeah. Who are the people that are helping move that along?
Oh, man. I'm new to the district, so I don't know. Well, there's a lot of important players. I would just say the Encinitas School Board and so some of the names,
So how do you think that came about? I'm just being one aspect about Encinitas I really like. It's very much like Santa Fe, and there's a lot of activism. So was it parent driven?
It started before I got here. Here is what I understand. The first thing that's really cool about Encinitas schools is they're pretty on top of. Pretty on their game in a lot of different ways, and they've won some awards for it nationally. They have an iPad in every student's hands in the classroom. They have organic gardening at every school, and this is just a few of the points. But they also have yoga at all the schools, so they're pretty well known as people who are on the forefront. Their school district is on the forefront of really total body in public schools. I'm talking total, body. While being aware that to be happy and healthy, it's more than just about how much you know. Yeah.
Anybody that's been listening to this show for a while knows that we've done 3 or 4 different episodes on different kinds of yoga.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
there's several different forms, and not all of them are actually totally just body.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, I'm pointing to my head, my noggin. There's a whole lot of just mind.
Yeah.
It's just not controlling thoughts, but...
Well, it's actually every yoga I've ever run into, even if it's using the physical body for certain aspects of it, it's all about union, which goes back to the very first conversation we had, which is this idea that there's something deep we're connected with that is real special. And what we're here to do, potentially, if you subscribe to this, is to yoke or bind or yoga with this, so not only for our own life, but to make the world a better place. I don't know of any yogas that actually don't have that at its
component. Core.
Yeah. So, and yoga is another whole 3-day conversation. It's more than just postures, even if that's what you're doing. So
another 3-day conversation.
Yeah. We could have a couple of those probably.
Yeah. Well, hey, these episodes with you could be known as the vacation episodes or something.
I like it.
The holiday episodes.
Yeah, I'm a school teacher, so I have some time off.
Yeah, you do now, don't you?
Yeah.
And I don't tweak things, and I don't try to make things happen. I really try to remain present and see who shows up or who, through, like Jacqueline in this particular instance. Yeah. But it's great. And I have a feeling this might be a beginning here for us.
Yeah, I enjoyed talking with you, and I definitely want to do it again.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So, number 1 health tip.
Well, based on our conversation today, I'd say slow down and Make a goal. If you're not somebody who already does know to slow down and meditate or do something, 5 minutes. Just stop and sit. If you are someone who likes to pray for those 5 minutes. Don't be afraid just to sit and to listen to music. Just focus on your breath. Just stop.
Got it. Actually, as you're mentioning this, there may be some people out there that actually already do this, but don't really almost honor it.
Yeah.
So recognize it. So it's like a lot of times what I'll do even is I'll take a lot of afternoons. I'll take some time in the afternoon, just listen to music. Just lay down and listen to music.
Yeah. No, and you just don't hear that very often anymore. It's sad.
I know.
But you make a great point. It's not just about being healthy and maybe sleeping better tonight, or maybe there's a headache that's brewing and it's going to go away. There's actually something very deep and powerful and special that happens when you say to your body, I'm going to give you 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feed it.
Yeah.
What you love.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always music.
I love it. Well, we can talk about that too.
Yeah. At the beginning of the show, I think you said something about let's rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll. That's right.
Yeah. Good. Well, let's wrap it up. Anything else you want to say?
No, just thank you to you and what you're
Thank
doing.
you.
One of the most important things we can be doing out there for those of us in this field is trickling it out even further than it is. Get the information to everyone in a way that's digestible and not overwhelming. And I think you're doing that, and I appreciate
thanks.
it. Yeah.
Good. I'm looking forward to doing the podcast with the Improv.
Yes. Yeah. We will set that up for sure.
Yeah. Good. Thanks. So you've been listening to AlternativeHealthTools.com, the podcast. And we've been talking with Dave Lesinski. And Dave, we should ask, how do we get in touch with you the best way?
Oh, yeah. Well, the best is davidlesinski.com. So David, Lesinski.com. There's actually some downloadable meditations on there, and I teach a very powerful form of meditation for free.
Nice.
So don't hesitate to call me, check out my site, and go from there.
Put your phone number on the site. Is that okay?
It's on there, yep, 760-815-6591.
Very good.
Yes.
All right, Dave. Well, thanks for being here.
All right, man, I appreciate it.
You bet.